I'm Chris Ferguson. I'm the director from the UK's Government Digital Service. I'm here to talk to you a bit about marketplaces from our perspective, from a government perspective. First of all, what was the Government Digital Service created for? It was a very simple mission to make things simpler, clearer and faster. We're not always great at that in government, making our services easy for people to use. So we have a mission to make government work better for our users. We've been around for a while. The creation was in 2010. We've gone through a sort of a long period of maturing, of iterating, what we do and what we've been focusing on. But from a very early point, we realized that we had an issue around the marketplace that we could draw on in the UK to help us deliver against this really challenging mission. This is our culture that we believe in the UK government and that we espouse from the Government Digital Service. It's driven increasingly by being as open as possible because we believe that when you make things open, it makes things better. And that's not empty rhetoric. We lead the world in using open source for our code. The governments of New Zealand and of Israel both use the same code that we created for GovUK to create our single government domain. And we have lots of code available and released on GitHub around various tools and things we've created to help departments and agencies make services. This is literally on the windows in our office building in sort of letters about. We're aiming for a future where government works better. In order to do that, you have to have an infrastructure and an architecture that helps you to be more agile, to iterate, and to change with society, change with your users. And we believe that building services on top of common platforms based on kind of registers, some open, some closed, so that your data is available and usable all across your entire ecosystem is really important. And we created GovUK, the single government domain. We had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of websites in the UK, and we realized that this made the work we do incredibly difficult to navigate for users of our services. And so by creating a single starting point, we allowed everyone to start with GovUK and to move from there into what they needed to do. We create other things like performance dashboards, but what I want to talk about is a case study which is on the marketplace we had to create. We'd put ourselves into a challenging position in the UK where after 25, 30 years of working with the IT industry, when we wanted to move to digital, we actually had very, very limited relationships with the digital market in the UK, even though it's a terrific market. So we had to create a tool, something we called the digital marketplace. And this was to achieve two things, and it was to overcome internal barriers and external barriers. The internal barrier was pretty simple. Procurement means, for government in particular, buying things fairly, following very specific rules. And because there was a lot of risk involved for the officials, what we had to do was simplify the whole process of procuring technology. So we put the rules in one place and made them very easy to read and understand, and created a user flow that allowed government officials and departments to buy very expensive technology, knowing that they were getting to the right outcomes. The other challenge we had was external. This is a map of the UK, and this is the locations of all the suppliers to the UK government in 2010. Now, in 2010, the UK was spending more per capita, the UK government was spending more per capita on government IT than any other country in the world, except for one country, which was Switzerland. And the only reason Switzerland was ahead of us was because they were building a large Hadron Collider, which was obviously a huge and very expensive project. So we weren't convinced that we were spending our money efficiently. We created the marketplace, and also we weren't spending any money with small or medium enterprises, any of those kinds of companies. This is what the picture looks like in 2017. So by creating a simpler way for officials to reach out to the market, and also by looking at what we were asking for and making sure we're asking for the right things, we've atomized the marketplace in the UK and made it much easier for smaller companies to win work with a G7 government, because you don't need the same people doing all of your databases and your hosting to be doing your design, to be helping you with user research and things like that. And as you can see, it's still growing as a thing. We spent about £3.2 billion through that tool I showed you, the digital marketplace, and 48% of it now, instead of 0%, is going to small and medium enterprises, and we have a target to get that up as high as we can. And that's by volume of transaction, going through marketplace, but in terms of pounds, I think it's even more, it's about 60%. And this has had a huge impact, and this is a demonstration that governments can not only drive innovation and invest in companies and spend money on technology, we're good at doing that, but they can also use it as a vehicle to drive growth in your economy and to make yourself accessible to companies that otherwise might think, we'll never get to work for government, we don't have a 500-person call center, contact center, we just can't operate at that kind of magnitude. So if you're smart about the way you procure, then you're able to do that. The other thing it is it's 3.2 billion votes. Every pound being spent by somebody in the government, that's a vote for a certain type of technology, a certain thing that is needed. And that's important data for us as the government digital service, because it allows us to see what kinds of thing money is being spent on, and especially as we're getting into more innovative technologies around AI and automation, it allows us to say, well, actually, do we know what good looks like? Are we able to help departments and agencies in the government to spend the money in a way that is right and is buying the best in class? So I wanted just to finish on, again, what we focus on is creating all of these things as we're doing our jobs. It's not enough just to make services better. We're also trying to change the culture inside the UK government, which is hundreds and hundreds of years old. And by focusing on making sure we're creating open and collaborative, sort of themes in all of these ways, we feel like we're going to stay on the right track. Because as long as we keep doing that and not closing down and focusing only on a few suppliers, focusing on a few internal challenges, that's the best way to keep driving a new marketplace and to keep growing the digital marketplace inside the UK. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask two questions. Number one, what was the success strategy that you used to move all of these SMEs to the marketplace? The second is about the financial part of it. Does the government actually invest in this, or are they a partner with the SMEs and consider themselves financially a partner with them? How does it actually, where do you get the funds from?
So this is, so the first part of your question, what was the strategy? So we've iterated many, many times over sort of 6 years, I think. But the approach we took was, there are suppliers out there who can help us. So there's all the famous large companies that can do big things. But they're also in London, like for example, we had FinTech was happening, it's a big deal in London. We're like, well, wait, why are we still getting all of our payment innovation from these 2 or 3 big companies? Like there's all these amazing smaller companies. And we realized the problem, the success strategy wasn't knowing what we wanted to buy, because we knew what we wanted to get. The success strategy was making it possible for officials to buy from other people than the usual suspects, but also to make those companies realize they could work with the government, and that even if they're only 5 people in South London, that they could win a contract with a big government department. And so we had to do a lot of marketing, and we had to do a lot of kind of outreach to go, and success breeds success. So as soon as, like when you start with 0% going to SMEs, as soon as you get to 2%, you can say it's 2%. And the second part of your question is, there's no financial incentive or investment other than the creation of the simple way to win work with government. So if you're a small company of 2 people, there's you and your friend in a bedroom, you can get on the digital marketplace, you can register, it's an entirely online process, and begin to be considered for work and operations. And then after that, your company can grow and grow with government money, but it's money we would have spent anyway. It's not extra money. It's just the IT budget that would have been spent. So there's no new money. I guess the only real investment was in the government digital service, building that portal so that people could find work easily inside government. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chris. Please give him another round of applause, Chris Ferguson from UK government. Thank you.